Hi, this is Boki, and today I am going to be doing my wrap-up for December 2016 and January 2017. I did not get around to doing a wrap-up for December because I didn't read that much, and so I figured I would just lump in the books that I did read into this month. So like my November 2016 wrap-up, I'm gonna kind of keep going with that structure of categorizing books by how much I like them. So I'm going to start off with the books that I enjoyed the least and go up to the books that I enjoyed the most. So I'm going to start off with the book I did not finish. This is A Sorceress of His Own by Dianne Duvall. So this is set in kind of the, I guess, old like knight lord kind of England. I'm sorry, I don't know the exact era, and the reason I was interested in it was basically the premise sounded really unique. This book is about a witch named Alyssa who goes under disguise basically to pretend to be a wise woman and help Lord Dillon with his various lordly battle things, I guess. And of course she is in love with him, but because she's pretending to be an old woman, she can't really tell him that. And then one day he finds out her identity and sparks fly and whatever. Yeah, that premise was like really grabbed me because I was like, that's amazing. Like a young woman pretending to be an old woman and she can't, like, she's super powerful and all this stuff. Like, I thought that was amazing. And then I read it, and first off, like, the language is kind of that old Englishy, like, kind of dialogue, and for some reason, I didn't like that. I don't know why, but that's kind of like a really weird particular note. Just more that once Alyssa's identity was revealed, I was just kind of like, okay, I wasn't really interested in any of the rest of the plot that was happening. They kind of fall in love, like, he kind of falls in love with her right away, which is fine, and I know that there's gonna be this whole thing where he doesn't know if he can convince his dad to let him marry this witch, but I just kind of instantly lost interest, I guess. So next up is my kind of like meh books. These are books that were fine. I'm just not like crazy about them. I didn't really like them that much. So for this will be, I'm gonna bring up the Lady Julia Gray mysteries, which I did do a review for. And this series is by Deanna Raybourn. It's about Lady Julia Gray, who upon the death of her husband kind of gets sucked into the investigation lifestyle. I really like how I was able to build up these kind of creepy family dynamics and these weird, like, kind of gothic sort of storylines, but I think overall the romance and the way that a lot of these mysteries were kind of written fell flat for me. And like I said, the romance, I was just kind of like, it kind of felt like she didn't really want to write it. Like, she kind of did it because it had to be there, but it wasn't really well done. I didn't really get why these characters liked each other because they kind of didn't really seem to interact that much, but I don't know, it just didn't work for me. So next up is books that I like. I enjoyed them. I would definitely recommend them to people, and this is Luckiest Girl Alive. So I think if the Lady Julia Gray series is like a high meh, this might be like a low like, because I don't think that this was necessarily the best written book. So this book is about a successful magazine writer who is basically seeking protection from her past in the form of success, only she kind of starts to realize over the course of the book that the things that she's seeking protection from are not really going to be protected by anything at all except confronting them head on. So the writing in this book kind of ranged from your typical hackneyed, sardonic observations on New York City society, like, you know, this is what rich people do, ha ha ha. But then sometimes would get to the point where it was more introspective, and I think a lot more interesting in those moments. I think when the narrator really starts to confront a lot of her own issues and her own mindset, it gets to be a lot more interesting. So I will have a review of this in the next few weeks where I'll talk a little bit more in depth about it. I think the reason why I put this in the like category, and maybe what I liked about it more than, say, the Lady Julia Gray mysteries, is that the book did a really good job of keeping me constantly invested in it and really wanting to read more. I thought it moved at a really good pace. It alternates between like kind of present day and the characters' pasts, and I really felt that that was well done to keep me as a reader invested. And ultimately, even if I didn't like everything about it, I did enjoy reading it. And last, this is the love category, and luckily this these past 2 months, I read more books that I loved than I guess apparently all of the other categories combined, so yay! So first up, books that I've already reviewed. Let's start off with Unfuck Your Habitat by Rachel Hoffman. This is the perfect book to kind of start off a new year with. I will link to the review that I did below, but I highly recommend this if you're looking just for a really good, solid advice book on how to clean your house. It's based off of the popular Tumblr, also called Unfuck Your Habitat. I think what Unfuck Your Habitat, both the book and the website, are really good at is like being aware that not everyone is working with the same level of ability and that a lot of people have different constraints. So I just think it's a really great way to kind of approach cleaning and give yourself a different mindset so that even if you're aware that it's a chore, you at least are not overwhelmed by it. Next two are both Sarah MacLean series, which I feel like I talk about her all the time. So there's the Love by Numbers series and then the Scandals and Scoundrels series. At this point, I think if you've watched any of my reading romance rundowns or some of my other monthly wrap-ups or my review of her books, like, you know that she's one of my favorite romance writers. I was not a Regency romance person before, but her books really kind of did it for me and brought me into that genre of romance. So you can kind of start anywhere in the series. If any of them sound like they're good to you, go for it. So I don't really know what else to say that I haven't already said a million times before. I highly recommend them. Next up is a book that I feel like everyone on BookTube, or at least my BookTube circle, has talked about, and this is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I read this in December. I did not get around to doing a review of it, but I get why everyone talks about it. Rebecca is about this unnamed narrator who gets married to this rich widower, and then when she moves into his mansion, starts to realize that his late wife seems to still have this like profound impact on him, the house, and all the people around her, and it starts to get a little bit unsettling for her. And I will say that there are some parts that are left kind of ambiguous in a way that I find a little bit frustrating, but in terms of the overall story, it's very well done and it's very cohesive and it pays off in all the ways that you really need it to. My favorite part by far is the narrator, which is not what I was expecting. For a character who does not really actually seem to have that much of a sense of self, like, I feel like I learned so much about her and the way that she goes off on these flights of fancy and like the way that she interacts with the people around her. Like, I just really love seeing her develop over the course of the book. So thank you to all of you on BookTube who recommended Rebecca to me. Next are some books that I will be reviewing soon. So first is The Queen of the Night by Alexander Chee, which is about this opera singer who has this very secretive past that's starting to kind of come to light, and she's trying to figure out who has figured out all of these secrets that she's been hiding. I was not expecting to love this book. I thought, like, it's a book about an opera singer. I'd heard it wrecked a lot on the Get Booked podcast, and I had also seen it on the NPR Book Concierge, so I was like, whatever, the library's free, I'll give it a few chapters and see if I like it. At first I was like, oh, this is a little slow, and then like 2 or 3 chapters in, I was just like hardcore, like all about it. Like, I really wanted to know every single thing. Really wanted to know everything about Liane, the main character, her life, her past, her secrets. I wanted to know everything. I think there's some weaknesses in terms of how different parts of her life are connected together, almost like by pure coincidence, but overall, it got me really excited about opera, which is not a thing I ever expected a book to do. Like, I actually started looking up opera on YouTube after this. It's not necessarily made me an opera person, but it gave me a much deeper appreciation for that. So yeah, I will have that review up, I think, within the next week or two. Another book that I really, really loved, this review will probably not be up for like a while just based on kind of the backlog of reviews I'm getting to. This is Big Little Lies by Liane Moriarty. And I read this book basically because I saw that there's going to be an HBO TV series made of it, which I think is being produced by Reese Witherspoon. And I was like, well, I guess I should give it a chance. It's like one of those books kind of like Luckiest Girl Alive that's all about like rich people and their secrets, I guess. But like, this one really, really clicked with me. It's about these 3 women who, like, the main thing they share in common is that their kids are all in kindergarten together. They're all coming to this year with their own frustrations with their lives and like their own dark pasts. And at the beginning of the story, we know that there's a trivia night that has gone horribly bad. We don't know how it's gone bad, we just know that it's gone bad. And over the course of the book, we kind of flash back to, you know, the beginning of the school year leading up to the trivia night. Between that and like some conversations that are kind of left ambiguous about that trivia night. And it's only towards the end of the book that those two threads really start to come together and we understand what's happening. I really liked seeing how this book was able to navigate both time and perspective. Those flashbacks really affect your understanding of what's happening, but also because it's switching between the perspective of these women as well as these conversations about the trivia night, it really starts to kind of get to a lot of, not original ideas about people and their secrets, but I think like, familiar ones that are still really well done and really interesting and I think really well drawn out. So I would recommend it if you're in the mood for that kind of like suburb thriller kind of book. And I'm excited for the HBO series now because of it. So yeah, that's my December, January wrap up. Thank you for watching. If you've read any of these books, if you had your own like kind of exciting discoveries over the past few months, let me know below, and yeah, bye.